Kesavatrita Narahari Rupa Jagatisha Hare Jayo Jagadisha Hare Jayo Jagadisha Hare Jayo Nishingadev 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 Jayo Nishingadev Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jai Prahlad Maharaj Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada
Nishingadev, keep love.
Jai Jai
Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshama. Krishna, 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 Pahima.
Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rama Raghava Rakshama Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava Pahima. You want to read from here? Are you sure?
Yeah, it might be a bit awkward.
It's awkward. How you know? It's my turn.
Unless I'm, well, I can do it when I'm following you. That's what I'll do. Okay. After this, all the residents of Vrindavan, of Raj, cut the gigantic body of Putana into pieces and piled it up with wood for burning. When all the limbs of Putana's body were burning, the smoke emanating from the fire created a good aroma. This aroma was due to her being killed by Krishna. This means that the demon Putana was washed of all her sinful activities and attained a celestial body. Here is a good example of how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is all good. Putana came to kill Krishna, but because he sucked her milk, she was immediately purified, and her dead body attained a transcendental quality. Her only business was to kill small children. She was only fond of blood. But in spite of being envious of Krishna, she attained salvation because she gave her milk to him to drink. It's a good point of a non-ahimsa milk. So what can be said of others who are affectionate to Krishna in the relationship of mother or father? The pure devotees always serve Krishna with great love and affection, for he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the supersoul of every living entity. It is concluded, therefore, that even a little energy expended in the service of the Lord gives one immense transcendental profit. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, Salpam apyasya dharmasya. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness is so sublime that even a little service to Krishna, knowingly or unknowingly, gives one the greatest benefit. The system of worshipping Krishna by offering flowers from a tree is also beneficial for the living entity who is confined to the bodily existence of that tree. When flowers and fruits are offered to Krishna, that tree that bore them also receives much benefit indirectly. The archana process or worshipping procedure is therefore beneficial for everyone. Krishna is worshipable by great demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva, and Putana was so fortunate that the same Krishna played in her lap as a little child. The lotus feet of Krishna, which are worshipped by great sages and devotees, were placed on the body of Putana. People worship Krishna and offer food, but automatically he sucked the milk from the body of Putana. Devotees therefore pray that if simply by offering something as an enemy Putana got so much benefit, then who can measure the benefits of worshipping Krishna in love and affection? One should only worship Krishna if for no other reason then so much benefit awaits the worshipper. Although Putana was an evil spirit, she gained elevation just like the mother of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is clear that the cows and the elderly and the elderly gopis who offered milk to Krishna and were also elevated to the transcendental position. Krishna can offer anyone anything, from liberation to anything materially conceivable. And therefore there cannot be any doubt of the salvation of Putana. whose bodily milk was sucked by Krishna for such a long time? And how can there be any doubt about the salvation of the gopis who were so fond of Krishna? Undoubtedly, all the gopis and cowherd boys and cows who served Krishna in Vrindavan with love and affection were liberated from the miserable condition of material existence. When all the inhabitants of Vrindavan smelled the good aroma from the smoke of the burning putana, they inquired from each other, where is this good flavour coming from? And while conversing, they came to understand that it was the fumes of the burning putana. They were very fond of Krishna, and as soon as they heard that the demon putana was killed by Krishna, they offered blessings to the little child out of affection. After the burning of putana, Nanda Maharaj came home and immediately took up the child on his lap and began to smell his head. In this way, he was quite satisfied that his little child was saved from this great calamity. Srila Sukadeva Goswami has blessed all persons who hear this narration of the killing of Putana by Krishna. They will surely obtain the favour of Govinda. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 6th chapter of Krishna, Putana killed, the 7th salvation of Trinavarta.
Just read.
Yeah, just down to here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is always full of 6 opulences, namely wealth, complete strength, complete fame, complete knowledge, and complete beauty, and complete renunciation. The Lord appears in different complete eternal forms of incarnation. The conditioned soul has immense opportunity to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord in these different incarnations. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said, Jama Kama Chami Divyam. The pastimes and activities of the Lord are not material. They are beyond the material conception. But the conditioned soul can benefit by hearing such uncommon activities. Hearing is an opportunity to associate with the Lord. To hear his activities is to evolve to the transcendental nature. Simply by hearing, the conditioned soul has a natural aptitude to hear something about other conditioned souls in the form of fiction, drama, and novel. That inclination to hear something about others may be utilized in hearing the pastimes of the Lord. Then one can immediately evolve to his transcendental nature. Krishna's pastimes are not only beautiful, they are also very pleasing to the mind. If someone takes advantage of hearing the pastimes of the Lord, the material contamination of dust accumulated in the heart due to long association with material nature can immediately be cleansed. Lord Chaitanya is also instructed that simply by hearing the transcendental name of Lord Krishna, one can cleanse the heart of all material contamination.
There are different processes for self-realization, but this process of devotional service, of which hearing is the most important function, when adopted by any conditioned soul, will automatically cleanse him of the material contamination and enable him to realize his real constitutional position. Conditional life is due to this contamination only, and as soon as it is cleared off, then naturally the dormant function of the living entity, rendering service to the Lord, awakens. By developing his eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord, one becomes eligible to create friendship with the devotees. Maharaj Parikshit recommended from practical experience that everyone try to hear about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. This Krishna treatise is meant for that purpose, and the reader may take advantage of it to attain the ultimate goal of human life. The Lord, out of his causeless mercy, descends on this material world and displays his activities just like an ordinary man. Unfortunately, the impersonalists or the atheistic class of men consider Krishna to be an ordinary man like themselves, and so they deride him. This is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord himself when he says, Avajanati mam mudha. The mudhas, or the rascals, take Krishna to be an ordinary man, or a slightly more powerful man. Out of their great misfortune, they cannot accept him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes such unfortunate persons misrepresent themselves as incarnations of Krishna without referring to the authorized scriptures. When Krishna grew up a little more, he began to turn himself backside up. He did not merely lie down on his back, and another function was observed by Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, Krishna's first birthday. They arranged for Krishna's birthday ceremony, which is still observed by all followers of the Vedic principles. Krishna's birthday ceremony is observed in India by all Hindus, irrespective of different sectarian views. All the cowherd men and women were invited to participate, and they arrived in jubilation. A nice band played, and the people assembled enjoyed it. All the learned brahmanas were invited, and they chanted Vedic hymns for the good fortune of Krishna. During the chanting of the Vedic hymns and playing of the bands, Krishna was bathed by Mother Yashoda. This bathing ceremony is technically called Abhishek, and even today this is observed in all the temples of Vrindavana as Janmashtami Day, or the birthday anniversary of Lord Krishna. On this occasion, Mother Yashoda arranged to distribute a large quantity of grains and first-class cows decorated with golden ornaments were made ready to be given in charity to the learned, respectable brahmanas. Yashoda took her bath and dressed herself nicely, and taking child Krishna, duly dressed and bathed, on her lap, she sat down to hear the Vedic hymns chanted by the brahmanas. While listening to the chanting of the Vedic hymns, the child appeared to be falling asleep. And therefore Mother Yashoda very silently laid him down on the bed. Being engaged in receiving all the friends, relatives and residents of Vrindavana on that holy occasion, she forgot to feed the child milk. He was crying, being hungry, but Mother Yashoda could not hear him cry because of the various noises. The child, however, became angry because he was hungry and his mother was not paying attention to him. So he lifted his leg and began to kick his lotus feet just like an ordinary child. Baby Krishna had been placed underneath a hand-driven cart, and while he was kicking his legs, he accidentally touched the wheel of the cart, and it collapsed. Various kinds of utensils and brass and metal dishes had been piled up in the handcart, and they all fell down with a great noise. The wheel of the cart separated from the axle, and the spokes of the wheel were all broken and scattered hither and thither. Mother Yashoda and all the gopis, as well as Maharaj Nanda and the cowherd men, were astonished to see how the cart could have collapsed by itself. All the men and women who were assembled for the holy function crowded round and began to suggest how the cart might have collapsed. No one could ascertain the cause, but some small children who were entrusted to play with baby Krishna informed the crowd that it was due to Krishna striking his feet against the wheel. They assured the crowd that they had seen how it happened with their own eyes, and they strongly asserted the point. Some were listening to the statements of the small children, but others said, "How can you believe the statements of these children?" The cowherd men and women could not understand that the all-powerful personality of Godhead was lying there as a baby, and that he could do anything. Both the possible and impossible were in his power. While the discussion was going on, baby Krishna cried, without remonstration. What's that?
Yeah, remonstration.
Remonstration. Okay, we'll find out later.
Yeah, I don't know the exact definition.
Without remonstration, Mother Yashoda picked the child up on her lap and called the learned brahmanas to chant holy Vedic hymns to counteract the evil spirits. At the same time, she allowed the baby to suck her breast. If a child sucks the mother's breast nicely,
where are we here? Oh, sorry. Thanks. It is to be understood that he is out of all danger. After this, all the stronger cowherd men put the broken cart in order. and all the scattered things were set up nicely as before. The Brahmanas therefore began to offer oblations to the sacrificial fire with yogurt, butter, kusa grass, and water. They worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the good fortune of the child. The Brahmanas who were present at the time were all qualified because they were not envious. They were never indulged in untruthfulness. They were never proud. They were non-violent, and they never claimed any false prestige. They were all bona fide Brahmanas, and there was no reason to think that their blessing would be useless. With firm faith in the qualified Brahmanas, Nanda Maharaj took his child on his lap and bathed him with water mixed with various herbs, while the Brahmanas chanted hymns from the Rig, Yajur and Sama Vedas. It is said that without a qualified Brahmana, one should not read the mantras of the Vedas. Here's a proof that the Brahmanas were qualified with all Brahminical symptoms. Maharaj Nanda also had full faith in them. Therefore, they were allowed to perform the ritualistic ceremonies by chanting the Vedic mantras. There are different varieties of sacrifices recommended for different purposes, but the mantras are all to be chanted by qualified Brahmanas. And because in this age of Kali, such qualified Brahmanas are not available, all Vedic ritualistic sacrifices are forbidden. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore recommended that only one kind of sacrifice in this age, namely Sankirtan Yagya, or simply the chanting the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As the Brahmanas chanted the Vedic hymns and performed the ritualistic ceremonies for the second time, Nanda Maharaj again gave huge quantities of grains and many cows to them. All the cows were given in charity were covered with nice gold embroidered garments, and their horns would be decked with golden rings. And the hooves were covered with silver plate, and they wore garlands of flowers. He gave so many cows just for the welfare of his wonderful child, and the Brahmins in return bestowed their heartfelt blessing. And the blessings offered by the able Brahmanas were never to be baffled. One day, shortly after the ceremony, when Mother Yashoda was putting her baby on her lap, the baby felt too heavy, and being unable to carry him, she unwillingly placed him on the ground. After a while, she became engaged in household affairs, and at that time, one of the servants of Kamsa, known as Trinavarta, as instructed by Kamsa, appeared there in the shape of a whirlwind. He picked the child up on his shoulders and raised a great dust storm all over Vrindavan, which I've been in one, by the way.
What you've been?
In a dust storm in Vrindavan.
Okay.
You have to take shelter in the building straight away. You can't see anything.
Wow.
Because of this, everyone's eyes became covered within a few moments, and the whole area of Vrindavan became densely dark so that no one could see himself or anyone else. During this great catastrophe, Mother Yashoda could not see her baby, who was taken away by the whirlwind, and she began to cry very piteously. She fell down on the ground exactly like a cow who had just lost her calf. When Mother Yashoda was so piteously crying, all the coward women immediately came and began to look for the baby, but they were disappointed and could not find him. A Trinavarta demon, who took baby Krishna on his shoulder, went high in the sky. But the baby assumed such a weight that suddenly he could not go any further, and he had to stop his whirlwind activities. Baby Krishna made himself heavy and began to weigh down the demon. The Lord caught hold of his neck. Trinavarta felt the baby to be as heavy as a big mountain, and he tried to get out of his clutches, but he was unable to do so, and his eyes popped out from their sockets. Crying very fiercely, he fell down to the ground of Vrindavan and died. The demon fell exactly like Triptasura, who was pierced by the arrow of Lord Shiva. He hit the stone ground and his limbs were smashed. His body became visible to all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. When the gopis saw the demon killed and child Krishna very happily playing on his body, he immediately picked Krishna up with great affection. The coward men and women became very happy to get back their beloved child Krishna, and at that time They began to talk about how wonderful it was that the demon took away the child to devour him, but could not do so. Instead, he fell down dead. Some of them supported the situation. This is proper because those who are too sinful die from their sinful reactions. And child Krishna is pious, and therefore he is saved from all kinds of fearful situations. And we too must have performed great sacrifices in our previous lives, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, giving great wealth in charity and acting philanthropically for the great general welfare of men. Because of such pious activities, the child is saved from all danger. The gopis assembled there spoke among themselves.
What sort of austerities and penances we must have undergone in our previous lives? We must have worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, offered different kinds of sacrifice, made charities, and performed many welfare activities for the public, such as growing banyan trees and excavating wells. As a part of these pious activities, we have gotten back our child, even though he was supposed to be dead. Now he has come back to enliven his relatives. After observing such wonderful happenings, Nanda Maharaj began to think of the words of Vasudeva again and again. After this incident, when Yashoda once was nursing her child and patting him with great affection, there streamed a profuse supply of milk from her breast, and when she opened the mouth of the child with her fingers, she suddenly saw the universal manifestation within his mouth. She saw within the mouth of Krishna the whole sky, including the luminaries, stars in all directions, the sun, moon, fire, air, seas, islands, mountains, rivers, forests, and all other movable and immovable entities. When Mother Yashoda saw this, her heart began to throb, and she murmured within herself, "How wonderful this is!" She could not express anything but simply close her eyes. She was absorbed in wonderful thoughts. Krishna's showing the universal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even when lying down on the lap of his mother, proved that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whether he is manifested as a child on the lap of his mother or as a charioteer on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The concoction of the impersonalists that one can become God by meditation or by some artificial material activities is herewith declared false. God is always God in any condition or status, and the living entities are always the parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. They can never be equal to the inconceivable supernatural power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chapter 8, Vision of the Universal Form. After this incident, Vasudeva asked his family priest Gargamuni to visit the place of Nanda Maharaj in order to astrologically calculate the future life of Krishna. Gargamuni was a great saintly sage who underwent many austerities and penances and was appointed priest of the Yadu dynasty. When Gargamuni arrived at the home of Nanda Maharaj was very pleased to see him and immediately stood up with folded hands and offered his respectful obeisances. He received Gargamuni with a feeling of one who is worshipping God or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He offered him a nice sitting place, and when he sat down, Nanda Maharaj offered him a warm reception. Addressing him very politely, he said, "My dear Brahmana, your appearance in a householder's place is only to enlighten. We are always engaged in household duties and are forgetting our real duty of self-realization. Your coming to our house is to give us some enlightenment about spiritual life. You have no other purpose to visit householders. Actually, a saintly person or a Brahmana has no business visiting householders who are always busy in the matter of dollars and cents." Euro cents, I guess. The only reason saintly persons and Brahmanas go to a householder's place is to enlighten them. If it is asked, why don't the householders go to a saintly person or a Brahmana for enlightenment? The answer is that householders are very poor-hearted. Generally, householders think that their engagement in family affairs is the prime duty, and that self-realization or enlightenment in spiritual knowledge is secondary. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Beautiful pastimes.
Mm.
Beautiful pastimes. Beautiful darshan here. And Anantalita Prabhu maybe will say some concluding words to us.
Hare Krishna.
That's very funny.
Don't forget Hare Krishna.
Yes, never forget Krishna, always remember Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Even if we're not qualified Brahmins, we should always chant the holy names, the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.